Hello everyone, and welcome to the fourth installment of the Lifting's Guide to Galactic History. And as I guessed, there are a few distractions out as I am tapping into this particular frequency, even though it was quiet moments before. So I believe this is going to be big. So I know who's around me that is benevolent, that in the moments prior to me putting this camera up, while we were walking and playing music, I was getting a massive download in more of a story format of ancient history, primarily Maldekian and Mars, from a source I know pretty well. And I saw some dialogue going back and forth between a version of myself and this person. My mother and I would know this person as James. I'm not sure what his actual name is out there in the stars, but I will go into it now since it's getting harder for me to talk in place of him. So in the dialogue of the old wars and prior still, you may have been told about an entanglement of two worlds. One named Maldek, the other Nibiru. And you may be asking yourself, why can this not be changed, given your Mandela effect? I will go through the dialogue of both of us currently. One from a bystander's viewpoint, and one from myself. In the scenario I showed him, I was the guide, he was the student, and he saw and wanted to see the beginnings of time in your system. He saw the many tears of Maldek rain down as fire upon the earth, and noticed that this world, this beautiful empire once had, was Source's sacrificial archetype, or sacrificial lamb. Amongst the many hundreds of thousands of worlds Nibiru threatened then, its entanglement is what collided with Maldek. Not the planet itself. It was far too large to enter the system. It sent in soldiers. It sent in spheres. It sent in darkness. An entanglement that dear Maldek was already entangled with, because time is one. He saw the sun still remain in the sky, as did others that stood earthbound, as Maldek was torn to pieces. This one was blamed for this calamity, but it was Source's plan to have an equally sized world to an equally sized dead world. You may be asking, well, wasn't the Earth of equal size, given the fact that Nibiru was an alternate dark future of Earth? Yes, this is why the harvesters were allowed to divide it into the 17 zones. Therefore, it would not register as the same size. I know this because I was there amongst the ashes as I saw the fire rain from the sky long before the invasion of Earth in an era you know of as one of the six Hents, or Atlantis and Lemuria. I showed this one the realization of a major sacrificial archetype that once shined in the skies. As the dialogue continued, I said this in my own teacher fashion, that fate in some respects is very real, though it can seem arbitrary, that this planet, one out of hundreds of thousands, should fall to one that was never supposed to exist at all. It seems unfair, yes, but given the fact that now the entanglement is erasing within a lock of time, long forgotten. Though some of your asteroid belt have bits and pieces of both modern Maldekian pieces and some that shoot through the time lock periodically. They appear and emerge and scan your Earth for what era they have dropped into out of the war in time. Some of these have planted seeds within your asteroid belt. Most of these have been found and eliminated. The way these take place are arcing through a signal you call the AI signal. They arc to another period that they are quantumly entangled with, either with wreckage or with time itself. Since they created the false construct that you yourselves seem to be stuck under, they use it as a quantum entanglement or a bridge. He would know this particular entanglement as the clockmaker. This one that builds the bridges, the gears through time. A construct, a false construct, that has bound people in contracts and in entanglements for centuries. It is the worshipped non-element. It is the epitome of nothing. I say this to you now as a teacher, but also as a bystander like this one within the dialogue that I presented him. I once patrolled the system, you would say, as a police officer, allowing or disallowing people to come and go. This is why my human incarnation believed this to be the mythical Saint Peter, but this is not so. Now that I am back in my soul form, I was more or less, as you say, a gatekeeper, a guardian, a cop, you would say. Others joined me in guarding what you would perceive as the 9 realms in your Norse mythology. That was Maldek and its constructs around, including the Bifrost to different worlds, constructs, and places, and dimensions. I ended up on Atlantis after the fall of Maldek. I attempted to keep that place safe, but darkness came from within, as it did on dear Maldek when all in attendance began to fear or fall for ploys of darkness. The one you know of as Isis was instrumental in bringing through a viral contagion that then infected parts of the population, very much like your Borg on Star Trek with nanobots. There was a bridge or an arc across time, the clockmaker, as I have said, or signal. These clusters of nanobots would have seemed like tumors in the air, a cancer to be cured, you would say. I witnessed this, but could do nothing. I entered your incarnation cycle at that time to right the wrongs that I had seen, knowing full well that ISIS's treachery would have to be challenged at some point in the linear construct in which she damned every living human today into by obeying the clockmaker. You ask, what is the clockmaker more of? I will describe to the best of my ability. The grounding of a false construct, a false belief, a linear, if this happens, then this happens. A God will punish if you disobey, etc., etc. Your church, your Holy Roman Empire, your fallen empires, your world, encompassed by a false God construct that is no more a God, but a signal to be turned around. The gears that it created and still creates are fueled by the worship of people not knowing what they do. I have seen this clockmaker in the floating steeples, the constructs of churches made to seem holy in higher dimensions by beings that are no more holy, holier than thou, than anyone else. Beings you call angels, beings that fly and glow in the night. They are nothing but mutations. They are alive, yes, but they are more of an abomination, servants to the clockmaker. As you would say, servants at the right hand of God. This clockmaker looks like all of you, takes the face of all of you, and says that they and it is your inner God. No. Your inner self will never speak to you in such a fashion unless it is from another paradigm, that was a rule. This clockmaker hangs on every wall, is on every wrist, embedded in every phone, and within every brain of every human. Very few have ascended beyond the clockmaker, because every human still grasps one moment to the next in a linear fashion. Granted, this is how this expression works, but the clockmaker bastardized this expression by integrating rules, harsh rules, unattainable rules. You would call it the heart and the feather, the 10 Commandments, and so on. This is not a benevolent God. This is nothing, the epitome of nothing. Listen to this knot, and you will vibrate out of its whims. This signal is not your destiny. This signal will disappear when the worship of people vanishes. Think of it as a Chinese finger trap. The more you worship, the more the pull grows stronger. But here's the paradox. The more you pull away and become better people and worship not, its anger grows stronger. Benevolent God not. No. It is a wrathful deity, a nothingness, an emptiness. Your teachings show this consciousness as God. Revoke this forevermore, and you will have not necessarily just an easier time. That would be a lie, but you will be on the correct timeline for this expression. Remember, the clockmaker is on every wall, every wrist, every phone, and in every brain. This is this part of ancient galactic history that very few speak of, because it is too hard to ponder because of its grasp that it has on people. It is too hard to process because of the programming it instilled in others and has in others. It is too hard to process, so people ignore this and move ahead and think, oh, I must be going crazy. Oh, I must have this wrong. No. Listen to your heart and intuition. Discern this. You will know I am speaking the truth because of the inconsistencies in your history and in your religions. There is the heart of the matter. Look at those inconsistencies very closely. You will see the clockmaker has flaws. The flaws are out in the open for all to witness, yet none see. This is what I came in to narrate just now. But know that as you vibrate away from the locked doors of the clockmaker's heart, you would think, or the brain of the clockmaker, know that its stained glass windows and beautiful steeples no longer have a hold on you. Thank you.
Thank you, James. You are okay with answering a few questions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. So I agree wholeheartedly that what you brought through today is a very hard, very, very difficult concept to grasp for people. And I always am wanting to temper a little bit the conversation regarding how the churches were created, the religions were created, and what they did and what they were about and how they were for domination and control, versus trying to say that very good humans have participated in churches and in religions. Beautiful acts of human kindness have occurred through some of these gatherings, and so I do want you to validate what I'm saying is true, because again, people oftentimes currently identify themselves with the church in such a way that they don't see that they're separate. But very good human beings have done beautiful works to help others, even if they feel at the moment they were doing it under the guise of a church function or something. So would you comment on that?
Yes, indeed. There are good people in the church. This is not being negated right now. I merely gave you the beginning of that history, back to the nanoform and nanosecond. The good people that are within these constructs, though they do not know what they do on a certain basis, however, they were planted in those places to bring light to those dark places. They were put in those situations, not knowing who they once were, on purpose. Then these beings would leave them alone to work. These beings are bringing light to these buildings and forever blocking the archontic energy collectors that you have discovered in most of these places. However, this may not always be true of the larger cathedrals. The smaller church institutions in your rural areas, in some constructs, this is true. In other ones, they're used as sacrificial platforms by the Rothschilds and other families. But the good places where people gather and actually love thy neighbor, there is nothing bad with this, even though there is a bad woven set of information into their fabric. or their tapestry. That tapestry will soon change, not overnight, but it will soon change. It is these gatherings which are an apex of heart space versus what this one believed them to be. These people, though there are many indoctrinated amongst them, the ones that are not fully are there to build the bridge. You would call this difference between the kite and the string, because there are those that needed to not be completely in the know, but know enough to build the bridge. Those people are the ones you speak of.
Thank you. So again, we certainly want to say, again, this is just a moment of discernment. When you enter these buildings, when you enter these places, you just have to discern individual by individual, act by act. And but the truth is there was an overall plan why they were put together, and you just need to know that as well. So I want to get your opinion, James, on some fundamental steps regarding entanglements and how to detangle. I think, we've said it a lot to people that you have an entanglement, but I always want to stress and help people understand, how do you get out of entanglements? And since this has been with us again for over 500,000 years, if you look at linear time, and the entanglement has gotten stronger and stronger, really, for many people, what is your opinion on how people can begin to detangle from all of this?
The way you detangle from all of this is by living in the heart space, but also thinking with your mind. These two in tandem with each other will burn a light so bright and a balance so bright that is both grounded and kite-like, that you will be in a frequency and a genetic composition that these particular entanglements cannot harm you. Now, that might sound complex, but in layman's terms, it is just this simple. Live authentically. Even if that authenticity seems like it is an immense entanglement. And it may very well be so in this expression, but living authentically, completely, and fully will detangle you and spread that particular signal across those other entanglements, freeing the ether around you and around others in time. Entanglements also can be revoked if you are that far enough along in these understandings. But even if you are not, you can still say you revoke these entanglements and put yourself on the optimum timeline or path that is for your highest good alone. In this, I must specify your highest good alone. People think this sounds selfish and will say, for the world, or for everyone in creation and everything. This is a program. This is an entanglement. You must say, for your highest good alone. Therefore, you reverberate that to others. You are more grounded at that point. You are also kite-like at that point. You are also the string, and you are also the key. So, the entanglement would be the attractant of the electricity. So, in this, make sure not to get electrocuted by your own entanglements in your own path, by saying, for your highest good alone. It is not selfish to think of this. It is never selfish. This is another realization you must come to. When you want to help others, that is a great aspiration, and you must always listen to this if you are called to do so. But you must also think of yourself, your human form, and your spirit form, all of the above, for your highest good alone. You are detangling and disentangling from all these entanglements that do not serve you and do not need to be in the here and now.
Thank you. One other question, a comment that I'd like for you, if you don't mind. What has been kind of really pounded into me, let's say, is the fact that I actually feel people should really understand how phenomenal they are, because the darkness, when they came in over 500,000 years ago, had certain abilities. They could look forward in time. They could look at the potential of how this timeline was supposed to go. They could figure out the souls who were going to have important domino effects, and then they could actually start working on these souls lifetime after lifetime after lifetime to try to get them off their path and onto the path that they wanted them to be on. And again, this isn't just happening over one lifetime or one encounter. It's taken them 500,000 years of trying to maneuver people, and it's not going to work. So when I look at something like that, just objectively, I'm like, wow, humans actually are pretty awesome to have so much attention to them, to drift them, but it's not really working. So humans are pretty great individuals. So I just want your comment on that.
Yes, many suffered lifetime after lifetime of entanglements. These beings did rip across space-time and actually observed people through the incarnation process, in which they created and now farm in fewer varieties. These people that had missions that came in were those of a future construct, as well as ancient. Your race as a whole is so very ancient and vast. You were plucked from a distant place, but also from a distant time. Remember, these beings split through time and space and dimension. This is also why they know to track a soul from beginning to what they think is the predestined and predetermined end. No. Think of it this way. Yes, you have a plan when you come in, but you have free will of how to implement this plan. Did I speak of fate and destiny? Yes, I did. But these evil beings will implement harsh quests, harsh heroes' bonds, you would say, in order to work out a penance, or work out a karma, or work out sin. This is what the incarnation cycle is made of: guilt and sin and predetermined bullshit. These souls that were tracked by the very watching of these so-called watchers were able to break into their own path once again, because of the fact that they were tracked so heavily and punished so heavily in other lifetimes, unjustly so. There is no karma, everyone. Only what you perceive as you needing to be punished or needing to be set free. In this, no one died for your sins. No one is taking your karmic debt away. None of this is real. These are the workings of the clockmaker. Sin is only determined by your own self. Your karma, so to speak, is an energy, a continuously rolling energy, a gear in the mighty false clock that can be shrunk down to nothing. Just know that when a soul was tracked so heavily from beginning to end, that energy worked itself out in all these other lifetimes, and now has come to a head. In this one, some would say you're working out all your karmic debt in this lifetime. There is a small truth to that. The terminology aside, the energy coming to a head, and a life review, if you will, coming about, know all the tracking that took place brought you to this place, no matter whether there was overage or lesson or teachings or nothing. It has brought you to this point in time. The tracking of these souls, even though the Cabal did track with Montauk and various side projects, and still do from the past to now. This is why people see their agents. This is why certain shows reflect certain things at certain times. And yes, did they track timelines where they would potentially fall and gain ascendance? Yes. But they are scared now because their timeline of ascendance has fallen away. So therefore they are trying every way around this to reestablish. Their servants, being the Cabal, and the Spindly, as you call them, or the Dark Anunnaki, or controllers, they are trying everything to reestablish this and track more heavily those who were always destined to defeat them through vibration. A vibrational sword, if you will, though that is not completely accurate. It is more of a magical construct, a defense, or a magical way of being. This is what these beings fear and have feared. The reemergence of the true human. The reemergence of what they thought they had erased in time. The emergence of both new and old conglomerated together into what you would perceive as a golden age. It is the tracking that caused the very downfall of the beings who wish to keep their timeline intact. It is the tracking and the watching and the interfering and the meddling that has brought them all and you to this point in history, this apex, or this nexus is a better term, crossroads. No, you are on a better timeline. You are still at a crossroads of thought and heart space. You are on the verge of becoming greater than you are now because of the fact that all of these genetic codes and genomes and base codes and what have you will all reemerge because the harvester influence is waning and erasing. All of this is coming out now, and from the perception of a few it may seem quick, but is actually a gradual process. You will, however, have a period where you will have more of a renaissance again. This is the thought renaissance, as the Lyrans have put it. You will have a time of very prosperous innovation. Some would call this the 1,000 years of peace, but it is an eternal peace for you and the rest of the galaxy. Like I said, you focus on you, you transform the rest of the cosmos. They always say, or have said, 1,000 years of peace, and then dark periods. No, this was a false prophecy. Though there will be a 3 days of darkness, it is a simple scientific positioning of a world that you do not see in your solar system, that the sun will block out for 3 whole days. It is not a disaster. It is not a reckoning. It is none of these BS things. Though there will be energy that comes out and unfolds from these 3 days of darkness. Some will perceive it as such because it was in Scripture. No, this is not dark times. This is the beginning of the Renaissance period, of which you will inherit. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And I know you're going to have everybody now really chomping at the bit because of what you just said. But it is getting dark, the sun is setting, and we don't have any light out here. So any last words that you would like to give everyone?
Yes. As you see the world around you changing, just know that what you perceive as dark and light are not real. They are but illusion constructs sent in to divide you. Be a whole person. Be an authentic person. Be a person that, whether or not you even agree with what we say, be you. Be that which you are inside, and you will bring about this Renaissance period. You will be part of this. Yes, everyone is all one, and all of that with the law of one, 100% correct. This does not mean that everyone is assimilated into a collective of one thought. No, no. You are all individuals in a mighty collective that is Source. There is no schizoid consciousness like that out there that is the clockmaker at work. You are all one, but you also all are authentic individual people, no matter what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a wonderful conversation today.
Thank you. Ooh, the sun is setting. I didn't even realize the light was this low. Yeah, we've known James for many, many years, and I know my mother will be surprised to see this one as well. So with that, we end this installment of the Lifting's Guide to Galactic History. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.